Hi, my name is Glenn. I'm Sales Director with Royal Apparel. Today I'm going to give you a quick overview of our custom capabilities that we can offer you to take our product and brand it as your company. Keep in mind, Royal Apparel is strong emphasis on made in USA, which allows quicker lead times, and we're also anchored on many of our products are eco-friendly. The first part of the presentation, I'm going to focus on relabeling, where we take our existing garments off our shelves already made, take our label out, put your label in. One thing to keep in mind when you're looking at our styles is what type of label are we currently putting in the garment. We use two types. We have tearaway label and we also have a satin label. The tearaway is made out of a nice quality paper, easy to remove, hence the name tearaway. You just tear it out of the garment. Satin is a satin fabric. It takes a little bit more labor to remove those labels. Here's a close-up of those two labels. Our label is one long label, two-sided, folded over in half. The top portion is our logo. Underneath it is our care content size label. Important to note on that care content size label, there is no Royal Apparel ID. So what many customers do is take our branded label off, but continue to use our care content size label, which makes it a little bit more economical for you because then you don't have to make a label for every different fabric and every different size. All you have to do is use your brand label along with our care content. Here's some general info that's important when you fill out for a request of a quote on a relabel. We need art of your label. We'll need the dimensions, the height and the width, how your label is sewn. Also important that we ask you to supply the labels. It is your brand, it's your baby, so we want to make sure your logo is right, your colors are right. The labels should be pre-cut, so we don't have to cut them. And also, important to leave a 3/8 of an inch bleed, so we do not sew on top of any of your art. Here's some examples of how we've done relabeling to keep in mind. Many of our styles have what's called a neck tape. You'll see that on our style bullets. It'll say tape shoulder to shoulder. The neck tape is a little fabric that covers the stitch on the back of the neck. So here you have the option of where we could lift the neck tape off, remove our label, then sew your label underneath. Or you could sew your label on top of the neck tape. Here's an example where we did under the neck tape and left our care content underneath it. Another example, we did two labels adjacent to one another, the brand label and the size label, both under the neck tape side by side. On this one, we did not go under the neck tape, but underneath, right below it, where we sewed a satin label vertically on the two sides. Here is a style, and we have several in the line, that do not use neck tape. Here the label is sewn on top of the seam in the neck. Again, the one on the left demonstrates where they left the care content label underneath. Now we move to the outside of the garment. Here we sewed a label at the bottom hem of a sweatshirt, sewn horizontally on top and bottom. Also the bottom of a sweatshirt, but here the label, the clip label, wraps around the bottom of the hem, sewn on top. Now we move to the sleeve, where we could put your brand label on the sleeve of the garment, again wrapped around the sleeve cuff, sewn on the top. What many do is leave our care content, but rather than put it in the neck, they move it to the inside of the garment 4 inches from the bottom of the hem. So this demonstrates how that would look. The one on the right, I turned the shirt inside out so you can see it. We feel this is very good for online sales because the customer has already chosen what size they want. If it's a brick and mortar store, be careful because the customer may not know where to look for the size if it's on the inside of the garment. Another option many do is an inner neck print. This is done in the decorating phase. Very good if it's a tearaway style. The label is torn out, and then the art is just printed in the neck. This is good. Keep in mind, though, you will need to do a screen for every size. If you're using multiple fabrics, you may also need to do one for every fabric and every size. Now, how do you get a quote? I'll show you where on our website to fill out the form, and then we can provide you with a quote. In our footer, at the bottom of the middle column, it says Customize. You click on that. It'll give you the minimums for a relabel. It's the lowest point of entry. The order only has to be 250 units, and then each style has to be a minimum of 72 units. So in theory, you could do multiple style colors to get to the 250. Then each size should be 6 units or multiples of 6. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a thing called Request a Quote. Click on that, and it'll be the form to fill out. It'll ask you, are you a current customer, your name, your customer number if you are, your contact information, email, phone number. This is very important to fill out our grid. What style number, color, and then units by size. Keep in mind the units by size, it needs to be multiples of 6, like 6, 12, 18, 24, so on and so forth. It's very important because different styles require different labor to relabel. We'll also ask you to attach art of your label. And then from there, we'll move into a series of questions. As I mentioned earlier, we'll need the dimensions. How do you want it sewn? One side, two sides, four sides? Where do you want the label placed? The back of the neck, or the sleeve hem, the bottom hem? Then also his style with a neck tape, as I mentioned earlier. Do you want it under the neck tape? And then what are we supposed to do with the care content? Leave the Royal Apparel in the inside side seam, in the neck under your brand label. So these are all questions you would fill out on the form. Then once we get the form, it'll be automatically emailed to us. We have a menu depending on how you fill it out, the number of units. Do you want it under the tape, on top of the seam? What are you doing with the care content label? How many different sizes you want sewn? We'll then come back to you with what the quote would be to sew in your labels. From here, we move into now more advanced custom work where we'll make the shirts or joggers from scratch for you. Now I'll give you a couple of examples. Here we take two existing styles in our line, our camo fabric and our baseball raglan, and made a baseball shirt with camo sleeves. When utilizing our existing patterns and fabric, you're saving on development fees because we don't have to redesign the specs of a shirt. So many customers will do that. We have a lot of custom orders where we'll take our existing styles, but yet we'll do a custom color. Maybe it's a custom corporate color, a certain design color you need. The key here, this is an image of our VAT machine. The minimums are really driven by how many pounds fit in that machine. So a lot of things affect the quote. If you're going with children, it's not as much pounds as a grown-up garment. Sweatshirts weigh more than t-shirts. So that's why we'll gather the info and come back to what minimums are and what the quote would be. Important to note, we use low-impact fiber reactive dyes. We find this to be the most sustainable for our production. Once we do a custom color, we will send you a lab dip. This demonstrates an example of a lab dip we did. We will give you usually 3 choices to pick from, what we think is closest. Often we may lab dip it in a couple of different of our fabrications. In this example, we did a tri-blend fleece and a 50-50 fleece. Another example of a custom color, we did a lime color on our women's tri-blend tank top. Here we made a shirt from scratch with its own specs and tech pack where we did 2 different styles. We did a short sleeve Henley. You'll see it has a half moon decorated logo, twill taping in the neck. We also did a pocketed tee, double collar, just to give you an idea of some of the things we've done. As I mentioned, a tech pack, many customers, when they want their own specifications, will submit a tech pack with all the different measurements for every single size, and we'll develop and digitize a pattern off of that. If you don't have that designer ability, what most will do is send us an actual sample they want us to emulate, and then we'll develop it off of that sample. Here's another example of a tech pack, different key measurements, colors they wanted to do with Pantones. Another example here where we did activewear, a sports bra, and a matching gym short, just to show you the variety of things we're able to do. Here, while we offer all over printed fabric in our line, our camos, or all over star print, we did a custom all over print for a leading music tour on the left. Here we made a shirt from scratch for a leading brand where we did the whole garment, the fabric, sewn on patch, 4 sides. This is what they call cut parts printing, where we sent the front panel of the shirt, then it was decorated, then we got it back and finished sewing the garment all together. Minimums for custom vary depending on what it is, so we break it into really 3 sections. One is if you're using our existing styles and our existing fabric, our existing colors, the minimums range from 800 to 1800 units. Then we ask for 75 units per color per size, multiples of it, 75, 150, 225. On fleece, the minimums are a bit lower, from 400 to 1200, and multiples of 40 units per size per color. Now, if you're doing a custom color, as I mentioned earlier, it really depends on how many pounds your buy would be that fit into the vat. So that's why there's such a vary there, but it would range from 1200 to 2400 units per color, and then multiples of 75, again using our fabrics. Fleece would be less, 600 to 1200 units per color, and then multiples of 40. Anything other than this, we would tell you to reach out to us, email us, give us a call, because there's so many different things that can be done. We would need to then look at that case by case. Keep in mind that Royal Apparel is vertical. We buy our yarns from all over the world, but after that we do all in the USA. We knit the fabrics here, we dye it, we cut it, we sew it. So it gives us a lot of options when we're doing custom for you. That concludes the presentation. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. Here is our email address for our custom department. It's custom@royalapparel.com. Thank you for taking the time, and hopefully you found this helpful.